Aid, Relief, and Economic Security (CARES) Act enacted on March 27, 2020, and the ESSER II Fund under the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations (CRRSA) Act 2021, Public Law 116-260, enacted on December 27, 2020. Topic: ESSER Fund, CARES Act, ESSER II Fund, CRRSA Act, authorizing legislation Section 18003 of Division B of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security (CARES Act) Section 313 of the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations (CRRSA Act) 2021. Period of funds availability may be used for pre-award costs dating back to March 13, 2020, when the national emergency was declared. Available for obligation by state educational agencies (SEAs) and subrecipients through September 30, 2022. Same as ESSER Fund, CARES Act, may be used for pre-award costs dating back to March 13, 2020, when the national emergency was declared. Available for obligation by SEAs and subrecipients through September 30, 2023. SEA deadline for awarding funds. SEA must award the funds within 1 year of receiving them, which will be April through June 2021, depending on NC's award date. SEA must award the funds within 1 year of receiving them, which will be January 2022. Definition of awarded: for the 90% of funds for local educational agencies (LEAs. Funds are generally considered awarded when the SEA subgrants the funds to an LEA. For the SEA reserve, see Section 18003E of the CARES Act. Funds are awarded when the SEA awards a contract or subgrant, or when it retains funds to provide direct services. Same as ESSER Fund, CARES Act. For the 90% of funds for LEAs, funds are generally considered awarded when the SEA subgrants the funds to an LEA. For the SEA reserve, see Section 313E of the CRRSA Act. Funds are awarded when the SEA awards a contract or subgrant, or when it retains funds to provide direct services. Uses of funds. The CARES Act includes allowable uses of funds related to preventing, preparing for, and responding to COVID-19. Note that the additional LEA allowable uses of funds under the CRRSA Act already were permitted under the CARES Act. Same as ESSER Fund, CARES Act. Note that the additional LEA allowable uses of funds under the CRRSA Act, addressing learning loss, preparing schools for reopening, and testing, repairing, and upgrading projects to improve air quality in school buildings, already are permitted under the CARES Act. Equitable services. An LEA that receives ESSER funds under the CARES Act, Section 18005, must provide equitable services to non-public schools. The CRRSA Act includes a separate program of emergency assistance for non-public schools, for which eligible non-public 1. Topic: ESSER Fund, CARES Act, ESSER II Fund, CRRSA Act. Students and teachers in the same manner as provided under Section 1117 of Title I, Part A of the SEA. Schools may apply to an SEA to receive services or assistance. Consequently, LEAs are not required to provide equitable services under ESSER II. Maintenance of effort, MOE. Under the CARES Act, a state that receives ESSER funds must maintain support for elementary and secondary education and state support for higher education in each of fiscal years, FY 2020 and 2021, at least at the level of such support that is the average of the support for elementary and secondary education and higher education provided in the 3 fiscal years preceding the date of enactment of the CARES Act, FYs 2017, 2018, 2019. Under the CRRSA Act, a state that receives ESSER II funds must maintain support for elementary and secondary education and higher education in FY 2022 based on the proportional share of the state's support for elementary and secondary education and higher education relative to the state's overall spending average over FYs 2017, 2018, and 2019. Reporting under the CARES Act. Each SEA that receives ESSER funds must meet the reporting requirements of Section 15,011 of the CARES Act, which are satisfied through the Federal Funding Accountability and Transparency Act, FFATA reporting, and other reporting as the Secretary may require, annual reporting. Under the CRRSA Act, each SEA that receives ESSER the second funds must meet the CARES Act reporting requirements that apply to ESSER funds and submit a report to the Secretary within 6 months of award that contains a detailed accounting of the use of ESSER the second funds. That includes how the state is using funds to measure and address learning loss among students disproportionately affected by the coronavirus and school closures, including low-income students, children with disabilities, English learners, racial and ethnic minorities, students experiencing homelessness, and children and youth in foster care. Tracking of funds. ESSER funds must be tracked separately from ESSER the second funds. ESSER the second funds must be tracked separately from ESSER funds. 2.
How wonderful to understand that there are just regulations on federal dollars, right? How do we demand accountability when we see no accountability? Well, the real challenge here is for you as an individual to contact your local state to see how well those children over there are doing that are entitled to these dollars, as they do not come out publicly and share the concerns of your people. What is the power in citizenship? The power of being awake, the power to engage is the power to bring about change. And until we meet again, this is Darlene Anderson. I'll say like, subscribe, and follow me on YouTube. Follow me on Anchor, follow me on Twitter, and follow me on Apple Podcasts. Reality Check 2021.